Hey everyone, and welcome to the Stock Talk for November 14th. So it's been a repetitive theme in the past few videos, and that is the prevailing trend is higher. And we can see we have moved higher on the SP 500 SPY on the daily time frame. What we can also notice is that if we zoom in on these daily candles, we can see that we're moving at a slower pace when compared to these days when we gapped over the resistance line. So what does this all mean? Well, we can see that in the past 6 daily candles, really, we've been trading in a range, very narrow range, $307.50 as your support, $310 as your resistance. So if we can't see anything specific on the daily time frame, we utilize other time frames to help our analysis. And one of those time frames is the hourly time frame. So this is the 20-day hourly time frame, and you can see we have a push higher and a consolidation. In terms of a technical analysis perspective, this is a bullish flag pattern. You can see here's your pole, here's your flag, and you can see this is your support right here, $307.70, and your resistance is around $310. But in terms of a probability perspective, and trading is all about probabilities, the likelihood of a bullish flag pattern breaking to the upside is higher than it breaking it to the downside. And therefore our expectation in terms of an hourly perspective, and that can morph into the daily perspective as well, is that we should be moving higher at some point in time, whether it's after market, maybe tomorrow, maybe sometime in the next few days. All right. I just want to show you something interesting on the intraday time frame as well. So this can really help you, and this is what we do in our group, right? We analyze various time frames, and we can do day trading. I know a lot of members can do day trade. They do swing trading. If you're doing minute time frame, this can apply to not only broad markets, but also the specific stocks that you're interested in. This is the 2-day minute time frame, and you can see we have these bouts of panic. Can you see these panic? And these are minute candles here. Now, these bouts of panic can have whatever catalyst is out there. It might be the U.S. trade tensions. This trade tension has been going on for a very long time, and it still go on. But in terms of a technical analysis perspective, what eventually happens towards the end of the day is that the bulls buy these intraday dips, and we usually recover near or at the high of the day. So you can see this is what we've been doing for the past few days. So again, does that show you market strength or market weakness? That should show you market strength, obviously. All right, so going back to the daily time frame, let's talk about the less likely scenario. That is, what if the bull flag fails and pushes to the downside? So when we look at that, we can see also, take a look at this. Here's the MACD, right? And the MACD obviously is getting close to the zero line, or close. You can see it's flatlining. It hasn't made a bearish cross just yet. Is this a major cause for concern? And what do I mean by a major cause for concern? I think a major cause for concern is if we get anything between 5 to 10 and over 10% corrective move in broad markets. That would be a major cause for concern. So let's take a look. In the past, we had a bearish cross. You can see there's your bearish cross right here. And we did push lower. But this is just to work off some quote-unquote overbought conditions, right? This was a 2.5 to 3% decline. But we eventually rallied higher. This took 4 days. So my point is this. You can see here's another bearish cross here. We stayed up here. Eventually did drop into a more of a pullback move. But the broad markets eventually rallied higher. So what is the big takeaway out of our entire discussion? Whether you were watching in the past few videos or this video, what's the big takeaway? The market is susceptible to more of a 1 to 5% drop in the next few days. We don't know when that day will start, right? And that the bias in the longer time frames and on the daily time frame is to the upside. So our expectation is that if we get a 1 to 5% move to the downside, we'll find buyers at some point in time and we will rally higher. But overall, the market doesn't have to cave in significantly, and we can continue making all-time highs, right? And that is the discussion we've been having here. This is among one of the very small things that we have discussed in our Discord chat as well. But we go in much greater detail in terms of a technical analysis perspective. So I want to go back to the weekly time frame for the S&P 500 SPY, because once again, I just want to show you so here's a resistance level, right? This was on October 2007. This was in the year 2000. So I just want to point this out. Obviously, you take a look, this was 2013, right? We're at the exact February 2013, exact same place as where we were the past two instances before a major corrective move. Now, if one were to be very skeptical as we were making all-time highs, one would have been wrong for over 700 days, while markets have been breaking all-time highs before that next major corrective move occurred. Now, I'm not saying that's going to take 700 days before that next major corrective move occurs. My point is that it's just very risky to say that, once again, that the market is going to make a capitulation type of move as we had done over here, while markets are moving and getting towards all-time highs. It's actually illogical to say that this is going to develop into a major move to the downside, because the market has to tell us the move first. And without bears shifting first the intraday trend, then the hourly, then the daily, then the weekly, we can't give emphasis or major emphasis on that train of thought, right? So that's what we have right here. Let's move on to TVIX or TVIX, tracking volatility. So why do I look at TVIX, right? Well, I don't look at TVIX because it's decaying ETN and whatnot. I look at TVIX to see if volatility is moving lower, are the broad markets consolidating to moving higher? If so, that is the trend we expect. If not, then we have to look at something else, because there might be something more developing and I have to go through other charts, right? So this is TVIX on the daily time frame. We see that 2 days ago, we made an all-time low. We closed near the all-time low today, and markets are near all-time highs. So once again, does that point trouble to the markets, or is that just confirming that the markets can continue going higher? Obviously, it's confirming that the markets can have the potential to go higher, and TVIX has the potential, in terms of probability perspective, to push lower. Also, once again, I talked about how, wait for the markets to make the major move first to the downside, let's say on a daily perspective. Because these are daily candles here. If we waited, you can see maybe on this day or maybe on this day, the probability of success at least increases in a volatility type of trade when the market makes the move first. So if you were in TVIX here, the probability of a successful trade in TVIX increases. The probability of a successful trade here increases. The probability of a successful trade here, the probability is very low right now. That you'll make money in the very short term, let's say, maybe in the next few days. All right. Now again, probability, right? 1 out of 10 times, let's say, you will be right. So maybe it's the next time, but 9 out of 10 times it will be the wrong trade. So in the short term. And that's what we do. In terms of technical analysis and what I do for the group, I try to make it objective, systematic. If I see a bearish signal coming out at some point in time, then we should have compelling evidence that piles on top of those signals that show that, hey, maybe the trend will start to flip. But without any compelling evidence by the markets, that's what we do. That's what I do every single day for everyone, for all the members. So do check out the group if you want to support what I do. Thanks. All right, so let's move on to crude oil, 4/CL. Crude oil is still in a consolidation phase. You can see your resistance levels at $60 to $62. Your support continues to be around $52. And we're still meddling with these moving averages. These moving averages honestly have not been significant at all for crude oil. How do you know that? Well, it's because we've basically moved across these moving averages as if these moving averages never existed. So while we popped over all the moving averages here, we immediately pushed lower. Now we're going back to the moving averages. So we're still in a range. We don't see a definitive breakout for crude oil. But again, if broad markets are healthy, and if broad markets can continue consolidating or moving higher, it increases the probability that commodities such as crude oil can move higher as well. It's not a direct relationship, but there is a probability perspective here as well. /NGR natural gas futures. Members got natural gas projections on these days here, in which I said the natural gas in terms of pro or bull natural gas position was very risky at that time period. And we're now down here. So you might be like, well, we're holding the 20 period moving average right now. Why is this still slanting lower? Well, the reason is until the bulls can recover the 2.8 level and close us above the 2.8 level for natural gas, this is on a downtrend. How do we know this is on a downtrend? We see that 20 period moving average, while it can be respected for a few days, eventually can break very quickly. And in fact, this is the sort of pattern we are seeing right now. This is almost like a bear flag, a flip of the flag pattern, pushing to the downside. Again, if broad markets was doing something like this, I would be very concerned, given that if broad, okay, let's just say, from a theoretical perspective, let's say this is SPY on the daily time frame. I would be very nervous at this type of pattern. And the reason is, okay, so we have a gap up. We have extreme optimism on these days, another gap up, but then we are now fading these gap ups and gapping lower. So this is a very dangerous signal, and then making a very quick bear flag that could push to the downside just as quickly. So if it was broad markets, I would be pretty nervous. But again, from my last long-term outlook video and the first long-term outlook video that I posted on YouTube, right? I can switch bearish when the market tells me, hey, maybe it's time to get worried right now. But markets are not painting that signal right now, so there you go. All right, let's move to /GC or gold future. Oh, this is a very interesting chart as well. So I was talking to members the past few days, and I said, is gold really fooling with me right now? And I was talking about this in the member stock talks. I'm like, gold held the body of the candles above my support line of 1453, and it's bouncing off of it surely, but is this the reversal that we want to see for gold? And just based off of this pattern, I'm not that interested in gold, because I'd like to see much more of a sustained bounce, a much more powerful bounce off this level. And without such a bounce, what we're seeing right now, this is just not very convincing for me that this is going to go much, much higher, let's say breaking out of this resistance line. And therefore, what I think is gold can actually break this support and actually push lower. Again, if you want more up-to-date projections, when I switch directions, members get to know it first, right? Because I post the projections immediately. And so for now, we can look towards the next support level, which comes in around 1400 for gold, which can get hit. So I think more consolidation is necessary. At a minimum, I think more consolidation is necessary for gold. All right. Okay, and that's it for this video. So thank you everyone once again for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, and all of your support, very meaningful for me. And because of all of your support, all of you will I'm also releasing something for everyone that I have been working on for a while. In the next few days, I hope. I have some very exciting announcements for everyone. So stay tuned. But until then, I hope everyone has a great evening. Continuing doing good technical analysis, solid technical analysis. Try not to guess as to where the trend can go, and therefore you will find hopefully more success in whatever you're trading in. Thank you everyone, and have a great